Welcome back. All right, so this is the last piece of information in your unit before the test. I handed out the homework to you in announcements today, so this is the note that follows. Remember, when you're studying for your test, I want you to study all the table of contents sections in your journal. So we're going to talk about, this is just an introductory to polynomials. We already talked about what a monomial is. Mono means one. It was one term, and we saw what that looked like. So a polynomial is an algebraic expression that consists of two or more terms. So what does that look like? It looks like 2x squared plus 3y. That's an example. Remember, if the labels aren't the same, I can't combine them. So we have one term and one term that can't be combined. That's a polynomial. You could have 3x plus 4 is a polynomial. You could have 2x squared y to the third z minus 4x y z. Two terms. Standard form, when we write polynomials, we write them in a certain way. So the terms should be written so that the exponents go in alphabetical order. From left to right. And it should, so the exponents like x, y, z, that's in alphabetical order, and it should be decreasing as well. So for instance, if you have, I'm going to put decreasing here as well, because if you have a squared plus a minus 3, notice how my exponent is decreasing. I start with the greatest one here, and then I go down. And if you have like 4xy plus 3z, notice xy goes in alphabetical order. So let's do some examples together. And we've already talked about how if the labels aren't the same, you can't combine them. So if I want to write them in standard form, my constant term always goes last. So here, my constant term is first. So we're just going to use the commutative property, and I have negative 2x plus 7. Number 2, remember here, look at the variable n. My exponent is squared, so I'm going to write n squared minus 8n plus 14. And let's never forget the property that allows us to do this, commutative property. So number 3 would be 10a squared minus 2a plus 25. And you can pause it. I'm sure that's what you're going to do. You're going to pause it, check, you do them yourself, and then come back and check your answers. So on number 4, we have 7w to the 4th. Plus 8w squared minus 2w. On number 5, I have negative 4p cubed minus 2p squared plus p plus 1. On number 6, I have I have this negative y cubed plus 4y squared minus 10y minus 27. So that's what standard form looks like. Now, let's talk when we combine polynomials, whether we're adding or subtracting. Of course, this isn't going to work. There we go. Remember, these parentheses, when you have a binomial here, we still want to use the distributive property, but because it's positive, it's not going to affect our signs in here. So when you combine them, remember, 11x plus 6. Notice the variable stays the same, right? I'm not changing the exponent because it's that label that stays the same. So I'm going to do the odd ones here. So I want you to pause and check it and see if it works when we come back. All right, so this one is 5k plus 19. Here we have 13c squared minus 6c. And this last one, I have 11x squared minus 13x plus 1. So hopefully that's what you got there. If you have questions, let me know in tutoring. All right, so when we subtract, so subtracting a polynomial is different because now when we subtract a polynomial, you must use the distributive property, and this negative is going to affect our signs. So the first thing we want to do when we subtract is we're going to distribute then combine. So let's take a look at number 17. 7x plus 2 remains the same, but I distribute that negative, so I get negative 5x minus 3. So notice negative times positive 5x is negative 5x. Negative times 3 is negative 3. Now when I combine them, I go 2x minus 1. I box my answer, and notice I have written it in standard form. Constant term last, variables first. So I'm going to do the left-hand side of this if you want to pause and check back in. I get 8 minus 4m minus 4m minus 6. And I have negative 8m plus 2 is my final answer. On 21, I have 8w squared minus 7w minus 3w plus 2w squared. Keep in mind when we distribute. Standard form would be 10w squared minus 10w. Box my answer. 23, still polynomial, it's just a trinomial because I have 3 terms. So 7x squared minus 6x plus 5 remains the same. And when I distribute this negative, I get negative 5x squared minus 3x plus 17. So when I combine, I get 2x squared minus 9x plus 22. That's my final answer. Last one down here, 3a squared minus 4 minus 3a remains the same. And I distribute that negative to get negative 5a minus 5a squared plus 7. So when I combine, I get negative 2a squared minus 8a plus 3. And that's my final answer. Okay? So that's adding and subtracting. And then the mixed practice is just you're mixing it up between adding and subtracting here. You can do the distributive property if you like it, looking at it without the parentheses. So I'm going to do numbers 29 and 30 for you, and we get negative 1 plus 13p squared minus 3p squared minus 14. When I combine like terms, I get 10p squared minus 15, and that's my final answer. I'm going to distribute using the positive so you can see that it remains the same. So I get 8v squared plus 2v. When I distribute the positive, I get minus 11v squared minus 2v. Notice it doesn't affect these signs. It stays the same. So when I combine them, I get negative 3v squared. My 2v and negative 2v cancel out. That's the additive inverse. And so I have negative 3v squared. If you have questions on that, come and see me in tutoring. Otherwise, good luck and get ready.